I feel like a lot of the times when we think of a breakthrough, or when we think of a blessing, or when we begin to think about the way God shows up for us in terms of his promises to us, we always have a set image of how things are supposed to look or how we want things to go. And so God will show up, but we won't see that it's him because we have this image in our head of how he's supposed to show up. And so we'll feel like he's forgotten us, or we'll discredit him for all that he really does in our lives. And I know that to some people, even just hearing this audio will feel a little discouraging, because I know that whenever I'm listening to an audio like this one and someone says God might just not show up in the way that you want him to show up, like I immediately get kind of discouraged, because I'm just like, I don't got time for the games. I don't got time to have to look for God in the details. Like I just want what I want. And sometimes we approach God in that way, in the sense of entitlement, that we're entitled to something. And though we've worked hard for it, and though we've been obedient, God should be giving us exactly what we are expecting. God should be giving us exactly what we hope for. God should be giving us things according to our faith. And if God operated in that way, a lot of us would be living way below our means. Like, we would be living in the pit if God always blessed us according to our hope, according to our faith, and according to what we truly deserve. But God never does that. He always gives us way more than we expected, way more than we deserve, because that's who he is. And so sometimes we expect things to happen in a certain way, and it doesn't. And I remember I was praying to God, and I'm like, God, I just want to change. And it's those prayers that you kind of just pray loosely, but it's like, it's not that you don't believe it, but it's just like you're just praying it just to pray it. And so I was like, I want to change my mindset. I want to live in the present moment. I don't want to. And to me, it was just a normal prayer, but God searched the contents of my heart, and to him, that prayer was a cry for help. That prayer is all he needed to move on my behalf. And I guess that this prayer that I prayed was something that I just prayed in the splurge of the moment, but I didn't know how much I really needed it and how much it would truly transform my life. And so I prayed to God for a change in my mindset. I've always been an overthinker. I've always been a worrier. I've always lived in the past or in the future. I've never lived in the present. Like, I'm telling you, my whole life, I've either lived in the past or in the future. Like, I have never lived in the present moment. And I know that sounds crazy, but when you're in your head constantly and you're always overthinking and you're always worrying, it's almost impossible to be present in the present moment. And so I prayed to God that he would give me a change in spirit, a change in mind, a change in perspective, just a change in my internal. Because I don't know if you've heard this saying before, but it goes like this. It says, once your internal is changed, once your internal is clean, your external has no other option but to obey what's been happening inside of you. And it basically just means once you've checked your heart, ask God to check your heart. Once you've cleansed your spirit, you can't have a beautiful spirit within and then look crusty outside. Like your outside, your outward has no other option but to display what's been happening inside of you. And if that's growth and if that's beauty, then that's all people are going to see when they see you. And so I was like, God, I feel like we've done so much internal work, but the one thing that I really need is for a change in my mind. You've changed in my heart, you've changed in my ways, but my mind needs change. And so what ended up happening was one day I was doing this event, and I was going to this school event, and I kid you not, I was full on living in the present, and it was so scary because we pray for things, but we have no clue how God's gonna do it, and we have no clue how it looks like when we're actually there. And so I've never experienced living in the present, and I've never experienced enjoying my life and showing up authentically as myself, like in those spaces, in social spaces. But I did that, and it was honestly one of the best days of my life. And I came home and I watched a movie, and a part of my mind was trying to get me to overanalyze what just happened and break down every sector, but God, there was something that he put in my mind that just wouldn't allow it to happen. There was something that he put in my mind, a blockade that just would not allow my mind to go there. And so as much as I wanted to overthink or break down every conversation I had, or overanalyze everything, that person stared at me weirdly. As much as I wanted to do that, I couldn't. I just could not do it. All I could do was live in the present. And that is when I realized that God gave me the answer to one of my prayers. Like, that was literally a breakthrough for me. My whole life, my whole 17 years of living, I've not once lived in the present. I don't think childhood counts because I can't remember that. But one day it's like a switch went off and I finally started living in the present, and that was a breakthrough for me. And so I was like, God, I can't thank you enough. And then it made me realize like how much God really just answers our prayers swiftly, but because we're not looking out for it, or because we're seriously not expecting it, when he does it, sometimes it's not that he will give it to us and then take it away if we don't notice it, but it gets to a point where it's like, when you don't notice it, you feel like you've missed it, and the whole time it's within you. The whole time it's already there. But because you're not paying attention, when God says you missed your blessing, it doesn't mean that he's taking it away from you or he gave it to somebody else. It just means that he's already given you what you need. It's already placed in front of you, but you're missing it because you're looking for it to show up in a way that pleases you. And we have to get comfortable with being inside God's will, even if that means that blessings come in ways that we least expect them to.